Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Liao Weiming. This is my colleague, Chen Zhangwen. We are coming from Bank of China, China Merchant Bank. So we have used Kanban for about 1 year. Now we have about 230 board in our company, covered about 3,000 of people, include the development center and the test center and the data center. So we have not prepared for the presentation. We have made a short video for share with us. Thank you.
Have you seen the first thing we would do is to stand up meetings. This is one of our teams, a quarter to a night, and then there's just around the physical board to talk about the standing up meeting. And there's another 2 groups, test center and another development team. And there's another 4 development teams. They all do stand up meetings at 9 o'clock in the morning. This is we are in different buildings, 2 cities, Shenzhen and Hangzhou. They all do, and also we do some stand-up meetings outside our gardens in our building. There are different kind of stand-up meeting, and after the meeting, so we will talk about the risk and the questions we discover in the stand-up meeting. This is the typical ones we try to pull from the requirement, design, ST, UAT, and to production. And this is one of the first thing we should visualize what we are doing, and we have some rules for the teams according to. And the second one, we have to management the workflow of our work from in progress to done. And the second thing, we have to do some WIP, and also we do some measurement and metrics. And there's maybe 4 key things. The string, so quick. And then this is one of, we have different kind of types of work, different types of requirement. We have different metrics based on different kind of work, not only the development, but also the test and also the operation. We have some special techniques, special properties. There's a different type of prototype physical board for our different teams. And also we are using the electric Kanban in one of our operation teams. And also we do some training work. And Anderson last year have been to our company for twice, and then we just do some training. You can see they are playing games, the Kanban games. Just this, they are playing games, Kanban games. And also we have some in advanced Kanban training. And then we have different coaches to help us to do it right, and our big boss, and he also tried to let them do it better. And also we have some awards ceremony, and to see this is the whole picture of our more than 200 physical boards in 1 year. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Green. I'm a lean management consultant in AKT. So I'm going to be multitasking my brain. See, I don't have another hand, actually. So can I just do that? Okay, I'll just do that. What I'm going to talk to you in the brief time that we have today is about looking at dependency networks and common cause delay. So this is something I think dovetails pretty well with what Klaus talked about in the morning. So let's get to it. So I have a pretty specific goal for the 5 minutes. I want it to be 5 minutes that matters to you. I'm not interested in talking about theory or grandiose concepts. I want to give you some practical tools that you can maybe take a nugget or two from this and actually go do something in your organization to help drive some improvement. So I'm going to share a few concepts and techniques that I've used over the last couple of years to really gain a fairly thorough understanding of these dependency networks that we have inside of a large organization. And hopefully you can kind of use some of these tools. And hopefully I'm going to motivate you, especially those of you that work in a large enterprise, to go to school on your dependencies and really try to understand them. Until we actually map out the topography of shared service networks in the organization, they become they're very difficult to understand and actually drive improvement. So I'm going to give you a couple of techniques you can use. And I also want to call out the fact that this work is really inspired by Klaus Leopold's blocker clustering idea at its base. Go ahead. So one of the things that I've used over the last couple of years in organizations to understand these dependencies better is an exercise that I'm sort of just giving you this exercise that you can go and you can implement this with various teams or services is the vernacular that we use inside of your organization. So I've done this with a large number of teams, and what we do is we basically take a team, put you at the center of the solar system, and then we draw the dependencies around, and then you draw the arrows in the direction of requests being made, and you can get some very valuable information from this. You can further lay in the rough percentage of work items that incur that dependency, and then click through for about 4 times. So we can look at hotspots here, and we can see where some shared services have SLA. One more time. And then we can see where the typical range of block time is not fitting with the SLA, so we can see that some shared services are not fit for purpose in the organization. This tends to augment, I think, fairly well the static method. If you're already doing demand analysis and workflow analysis, this is a good addition to that. This is animated, so you're going to have to click through, just go all the way. So here we've got, just keep clicking. So here we have some demand coming into these 3 different teams. Keep going, right? Keep going. And then invariably, keep going. Invariably, one of the teams needs something from another team, right? So they show up as another source of demand, right? And we start to have these arrows going all different ways. Keep going. So what I'm recommending here, keep going, is that we actually take the time to measure the time that these items are waiting to come back and that they're blocked. And then from that, one more time, 2 more times. This was a bad idea not to have a clicker. So what I'm saying is let's measure this block time, and from these distribution graphs that we get, let's derive an empirical SLA and not have it be based on wishful thinking. Okay, that's the main idea here. Okay, this is another tool that I found to be fairly useful, and harvesting from that exercise that I shared initially, we can start to measure the frequencies of blockages going into different shared services. So this example on the right is a kind of a spectral analysis of blockers, and spectral analysis is just measuring the frequency of certain things happening. So we can see these different types of blockers, and we can see how they trend over time. Go ahead. A few more times. One more time. Back one. There's no flow in this presentation at all, okay? So what we've got here is you've got a dual axis kind of graph. On the left, you've got the count of these different types of blockers or the frequencies. And then on the right axis, we've got impacted time. And then we can sort of trend that over time. We can put an average line through it, but you have to be careful about that average. You don't want to look at that in a vacuum or some bad things can happen, right? But here we can get a really good sense overall of how we're being impacted by what types of blockers over time. And then we can harvest from this improvement opportunities. Go ahead. So in summary, I just want to kind of recommend a couple of things to you. One is to characterize these shared service networks in your company, especially if it's a large enterprise. I think it's something that's very important. We want to visualize these networks and kind of understand the common cause delay in these networks. We want to measure block time and derive SLAs from that block time, harvest model-driven improvements from the bottlenecks that are identified in the exercise, and then monitor the spectral analysis of the blockers in your either ops or risk review, and rinse and repeat. So thank you very much.
So hi everyone, I'm Bill Sesko. I'm a Kanban coach at Travelers. And unlike Eric, I'm not going to give you tools. I'm going to whine a little bit and hopefully drive some conversation. I'm interested in language and what we call things and why. So I want to talk about some terms and things like that. And I don't know that we're going to have any answers here, but I think we'll drive some conversation coming up. So let's see. All right, so we call things all sorts of, we call terms all sorts of different things. If you were to ask people in my organization, which is a fairly large insurance company, if you ask 10 people, you'd probably get 5 answers for things like cycle time. What the heck is lead time? Projects mean different things to different people. What's a team means different things to different people. Pants. Well, pants, depending upon where you are. I happened to be in the UK years ago and was wearing a pair of shorts and said to someone, I don't know if I should wear pants today. And they all got a big kick out of that because pants are underwear. So how about these? Things like service. What does a service mean? Again, if you ask 10 different people in my company, you're going to get at least 5 different answers. Travelers. If you were to ask someone in the UK, what's a traveler, you'll get a different answer than what you would get if you asked someone in the US. And then Kanban master. And this is one that I like to kind of talk about a little bit. Yes master. We've had this unfortunate trend at the company of calling people Kanban masters. In a servant leadership organization, having a master, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. Service delivery lead's another one that we hear. But again, people sometimes bristle against the idea that someone's a lead. If we're a self-directing team, then why do we need a lead? So, and other names. Companies probably all have different names, and groups have different names for what they call a person that facilitates the work of a self-directed team. So this is one that we struggle with a lot. And again, I don't have an answer. I'd love to talk about it. And what do you call the stuff that you do? And this one's kind of a biggie for us as well, because we call things projects. The things that flow across your board, people call them tickets, cards, stories, user stories, tasks, and work items. And depending upon who you talk to, things get very confusing. I've got customers that insist on calling a user story a ticket. So, which is okay. I like the idea of tickets. I have people that keep calling them tasks. And depending upon some of the tools that you have, the tools that we use force a set of terms on us. We use a tool that you're probably familiar with called Rally. And Rally calls teams projects, and it calls work items user stories. So it becomes hard now for us to come up with a term that we like because we get things forced upon us. So what do we do? So some of the thoughts: do we need a dictionary? Do we need to, is it okay for us to call things by different names? Again, in a big company like ours, if you go to one division, they might call things one thing. If you go to another division, they call it another thing. Is that bad? And I don't know the answer to that. Is it okay to let people choose? Should some terms be off limits entirely? We were warned earlier this year to not use the term grooming anymore for various reasons. So what's the right way to go? Again, I'm not sure what the answer is, but I'd love to talk about this with folks. In Kanban, we've always been taught that we're not dogmatic. We don't want to have high cohesion. So I think letting people do what they want, there's a lot to be said. And are there risks? Do we need this common vocabulary? Do we need to worry about a Tower of Babel if we don't do that? And we violate start where you are by imposing vocabularies. So these are all things that at least I think about. I'd love to talk about them with you. And if there's any approach that work for you, I would love to have a chat in our remaining days here. So thank you very much.
So I'm here to talk about why estimates make me frown. I want to ask you, do you ever smile when you estimate? Does the person asking you for an estimate ever smile? What puzzles me is when you're not smiling, when the person asking you is not smiling, then why do we do things that don't make either of us smile? Even Zoltar doesn't smile when it gives you your future. Now, estimate at best is a guess. Now, I'm talking about an estimate at the level of a task, at a project, at a big effort or an initiative. It is still a guess. Sometimes it's an empirically derived intelligent guess. because you've done a lot of statistical modeling around it, but you're still making a guess. Sometimes you build enough consensus within your organization with experts looking at all of these data points and coming up with a guess. See, if estimates were accurate, you would start calling these things as facts, but they aren't. All right, so broadly speaking, estimates are expert judgment-based estimates which are prone to human judgment biases, and on the other hand, there are statistically analysis-based judgments which are expressed as percentiles. The best thing that estimates can do is they can process the known knowns and probably provide a tolerance for known unknowns. But there is a whole area of what you don't know. And sometimes pontificating about story points is completely pointless, because it makes no sense. How do I quantify my ignorance? And at this point, if I say I don't know, that is not an acceptable answer. In our industry, it is much better to make up BS theories and to tell some falsehood as opposed to simply admit I don't know, because I don't. Now, here's, oh, that clicked too fast. See, if you look at this thing, you see A, B, and C. Most of you do. But when you find out new piece of information, it could also be 13. What happens is when you start estimating, you predispose yourself to a solution. In order to come up with an estimate, you must have a solution in your mind, or else you can never come up with the estimate. Now, even when new pieces of information are provided to you as you go about to do your work, you are not prepared mentally and psychologically to accept this new piece of information because you're too anchored into the solution that you had envisioned when you knew the least about your project. The day you start the project is the dumbest day of your life on the project. When you finish it, that is the smartest day of your life on your project. So don't predispose yourself to a solution by setting up an estimate of what that work is going to be. Now, I strongly contend that estimates themselves anchor benefits. Now, there is a degree of uncertainty about when am I going to deliver this project and what market benefit am I going to get. These are all hypotheticals, and we are most likely guessing at this point. There are no free lunches, though. In order for you to come up with an estimate, there is a cost that your organization needs to pay and the time that you need to spend in order to come up with that estimate. When you spend that time coming up with the estimate, you are eliminating all the benefit outcomes that are prevalent at that point. In other words, it is bad business strategy to spend more time estimating than finishing the job at hand. I know of a lot of projects that were estimated for many months and then were finished in 15 days or abandoned much, much sooner. On the other hand, if I were to give you the task of saddling up my unicorn and you made the mistake of giving me an estimate, you are going to look for a unicorn until the estimate runs out, and then you're going to try to prevent your stop losses by making up stuff. I have yet to find a project that was abandoned at the right moment. Every time a project has been abandoned in retrospect, we should have canceled this project 3 months ago. It's never abandoned at the time when it should have been abandoned. There are penalties if you deliver the project early on, because if you deliver early on, then there is a tendency to start gold plating the work that you are doing. You are making us look bad. Can you just use this time to work on the other project? So by definition, having an anchor called an estimate, you are going to erode the benefits of early delivery because you have the estimate anchor. On the other hand, if you move past the anchor, and now you're late, you're going to put quality defects into your product. In other words, by estimating, you're going to create a dependency domino because there are people believing in your estimate more than you do. You see, what estimates do is they create an anchoring effect. It's sort of a pinching effect. All the benefits, they get centered around the tolerance zone of the accepted estimate. And when that happens, you are eroding all the other benefits that are possible for you. What I feel is, since estimation is a guess, you are going to guess and you're going to get an inverted U-shaped outcome irrespective of what guesses you're going to make. And that's why I frown when I give estimates.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Audrey Go. I think that I will be known from this conference that I'm the sailing guy after what Janice did this morning. But I would say that I'm not used to do this kind of talk, okay? But what happened is that I was talking with a guy on Twitter, and this guy said something like this, Kanban guys only care about the process, they don't care about the human side, the human nature of things. And, for a while, I was thinking about it, and I realized that maybe this guy has a point. Because I don't see people in conference like this talking too much about peopleware, about motivation, okay? And, well, there's an explanation for that. And when I heard this bold claim that, Kanban is not people-centric or this kind of stuff, my first move was to talk to my teams, to talk to my clients, okay? And I asked them, do you feel that Kanban is not human-centric by some extent? And they said, no, this claim doesn't make any sense because the first thing that they said was something like, WIP limits are humanistic, okay? And the words that they used to describe it, something like this, well, relief, productive, and peace, and this kind of stuff, okay? And I realized that when you say that my approach is people-centric, okay, I see a problem on this claim because when you say that your approach is people-centric, the only leverage that you see is motivation, okay? And you are going to try to change that. And the big question that I'd like to drop here is that, do you think that it's ethical to try to change people with people disagree with your vision, if people are not caring about your project or something like this, okay? And this brings us to my second point that capacity-based planning is also humanistic, okay? I guess that all of you heard what David said in the morning, okay? Kanban is not here to try to fix society. Kanban is not here to try to change the world or elevate the human spirit. Kanban is here, and our mission is clear here. Kanban is here to take out the abuse from the workplace, okay? And I see that it's really noble, this is tangible, and the good news is that this is really happening, okay? I see it on my clients, I see it on the market. Kanban is really taking out the abuse from the workplace. And, well, people ask, what if I'm not happy with my capacity right now, okay? Well, Kanban is going to tell you something like, we'll improve the system, okay? And Kanban is going to tell you to try to be a step to a solution, okay? This brings me to my point number 3. And the last one, evolutionary change also is humanistic, okay? I guess that everybody here in the community understands that changes have timing, and history tells us that the way the families, the way the cities, the way the teams evolve is using this kind of baby step solution, okay? And every time that you see in history someone trying to change things too fast or doing big changes suddenly, usually people got killed in the process, okay? So the summary is this, sorry. Kanban, of course, Kanban is humanistic, but Kanban is humanistic the Kanban way, okay? And this means no ideology, no wishful thinking, science-based, indirect, and humble, okay? The takeaway is that I see that there is nothing more humanistic than a limited whip pull system evolving, okay? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Phillip. And Rodrigo, that's a really good segue into my talk. So many of us here are interested in helping organizations and teams change. So, but it's often a difficult struggle for us. So I want to tell you from my experience, the key for implementing change in organizations is forcing change. So first, it's important to remember that the change effort is all about doing agile, okay? Remember that. Sometimes executives, you might find one or two that say they want actual business outcomes, but it's important to try to find those that are interested just in a silver bullet, which is agile, and so emphasizing doing agile that way. It helps you force the change much easier. So that really means complying with a framework, okay? So take time boxes, for example. It's really important that we need to comply with the time box. So the time box is really cool because it magically forces all work to fit inside a 2-week period. Okay, whatever domain you're in, whatever type of work, whatever evolutionary part you're in, just doing a time box will force the work to fit into that. So sometimes you might have to do like a separate testing or hardening phase or sprint. Just don't disregard that phase. It's not really part of the sprint, even though we do have some extra work to do. It's not really part of it. You can just ignore that. It doesn't really count. That might sound like waterfall, but it's not, because we're doing Agile and we're not doing waterfall. Okay. Okay, so that leads us to metrics. We really need to force the right metrics on organizations and teams, like velocity. So a lot of times people say businesses don't understand what velocity is. That's okay. We're going to force it on them. They don't need to understand the metric. It might not make sense in a business context. That's okay. Points, again, it doesn't really matter. Okay. Part of the reason we want to force that kind of thing on organizations is because it's hard when we ask questions like, what is your purpose and how do you become more fit for your purpose? Those are really hard questions for businesses to answer. So we don't want to ask those questions. It's much better to obfuscate those kind of realities with things like velocity and focus on velocity. Also, velocity is really cool because you can really force the teams to increase the velocity and they'll listen to you. Okay, so that leads me to ceremonies. So a lot of times organizations that have no Agile experience, the idea of these new ceremonies is going to be a foreign concept to them. Just force them through it. Things like backlog grooming, daily stand-ups, just force them to do the 3 questions and they'll be fine. So remember, it's all about the worker, not the work, okay? 3 questions. Okay, Scrum, for example, also introduces some new roles, like a Scrum Master, Product Owner. And this is really nice because it's interesting for people. We know from research that people have really no emotional attachment whatsoever to their roles, their positions, their titles. So introducing new ones, telling them that they need to go from what they've been doing for 10 years to doing something new like a Scrum Master role is actually kind of fun. Okay. Why are you laughing? Okay, and I've found it's really important to have a binary distinction between are you Agile or are you not Agile. This can allow you to really influence morale. You can really beat people down about you're not really Agile, and they'll listen to you and therefore allow you to force the change better. Conversely, if people know that they are Agile, they don't have to worry about improving anymore. So anyway, so finally, the best thing about forcing change is that you don't have to worry about the culture whatsoever. If an organization or team has no history or any tradition of self-organization, improvement, you don't have to worry about that at all. And so all you really need to do is bring in a Scrum Master, because it's important that people see our certification for helping them change, and we can force them to change. Thank you.